Hi, my name is Dylan, and in this video I will show you how to use the movement tools I created for my scripted MEG mod in Tabletop Simulator. MEG, of course, stands for Mortem et Gloriam, my favorite current set of miniature wargaming rules for Ancients. If you have tried to play a game like MEG in Tabletop Simulator, you know that movement is probably the worst part, and I hope that this tool makes that a little easier. I've added two new menu panels for movement. You can show or hide these new panels with the buttons here at the bottom of the familiar card menu or card control menu here on the right-hand side. So we have a button to show and hide the movement tool. We have another panel here which is used to set up your armies, which I'll talk about a little bit later. You can also drag any of these around, right, to a place that is convenient for you on the screen, or again, just hide them if you want to focus on another part of the screen. I think it's especially useful when you're focused on your cards. So let's show our panels though, because we're going to take a look at the movement panel and what you can do with it. First, we see we have a slider at the top here. The slider allows us to adjust a value in base widths. We have black buttons and green buttons. The green buttons are the ones that use this slider. So for example, I will select my tug here, some pikemen, and we are going to move forward. I guess we are some infantry that move 3 base widths. So let's move forward 3 base widths, clicking the green button, and ta-da! They have moved forward 3 base widths. If I wanted to do a shift or a slide, I can use the green buttons for that as well. Here, let's do a 1 base width slide to the left. We can do that, and we can go back right, maybe if we change our mind. We also can go backwards, right? So we're going backwards 1 base width, etc. Again, that slider only impacts the green buttons, right? We have some other buttons here. The nudge button allows you to make a small move, right? So we might want to, and it's just a 0.02 base width. This is handy when you're getting close to the enemy or some other object, and you want to just nudge it up a little bit or move it left and right just a little bit. Let's take another example where we'll grab our unit here, picking them up and moving them around the regular way. I'm going to tell you about how that's bad in a second, but so here is our unit. Let's move forward 3, and now we're definitely within charge range. So let's say the next turn has happened. We're ready to charge these guys. I'm going to go ahead and try to do I think a 1 move forward. Oh, that's a little too far. I'm going to go back. So this illustrates something else, which is that the collisions are turned off when you're using these movement tools here, the buttons. The collisions are turned off, which means this did not create a huge, horrible mess. If we had picked these guys up and just dropped them on top of the enemy like this, you know, the models, the bases would have gone everywhere, and it would have been a really sad thing. But since we're using our movement tool, we can just click the back button, and like so, we're back to where we started. So 1 was definitely too far. Let's just move a half forward. And to do those final few millimeters, let's use our nudge button to get right up to our opponent here. And that looks close enough. I think we'll call that a successful charge in this case. But I also want to align, and of course we're allowed to do that. So let's align by sliding 1 base width over, and that looks pretty good. So I could have done, I'm sorry, that was actually half a base width, right? So yeah, that worked out pretty well. I could also align by hitting the nudge button, of course, right? So we can get nice and lined up there. And that is, I think, infinitely more accurate than you could do with the standard interface in Tabletop Simulator. Let's talk about these red buttons down here. These are to prevent you from accidentally picking things up. So I'm going to click on the Prevent Pickup button. Let's try that again. Selected my unit, Prevent Pickup, and now this actually adds like a little script to each of these bases, right? And the script prevents it from being, or prevents you, the player, from accidentally picking these up. You can still select them, right? But you cannot pick them up. You cannot move them around in the normal sort of interface way. And why do we want to do this? Well, when I start to talk about wheeling, there's a very important reason to do this, but it also just helps you, it helps to prevent accidental movement of things. Now, there's no undo button, right? Again, we saw where let's go back. Hey, that was an example, right? This is an example in and of itself. Let's say, hey, I haven't selected all of my units. I hit that move forward button and now I've like overlapped my own guys here. That's no good. I don't have an undo button, but as long as I don't change anything in here, as long as I don't deselect my units, I can just do the opposite of what I just did. So I did a move forward, which got me into a situation I don't like. I'm just going to move backward, essentially, to, in effect, undo, right? So I moved back half a base width, and now I'm right back where I should be. So we prevented pickup there. Let's talk about what if I want to remove a base, right? Well, then we need to allow pickup again. So I'm just going to select the base that I want to remove, click allow pickup, and now I can pick this guy up, right, and put him in my dead pile. Let's talk about wheeling. And to talk about wheeling, we really have to talk about, I think, the 15-degree problem. Right? So let me quickly illustrate that. I'm going to copy and paste a few units here. Let's move these guys back just like that. Okay, let's have a bigger unit to play with here. The 15-degree problem I refer to is this rotation degrees thing, which is part of the Tabletop Simulator interface. Essentially, there are almost like rotation snap points for every object when you're using the standard interface, right? Which means I can pick these guys up. I can use my Q and E keys to rotate them, and that's all well and good, but I can only rotate in increments of 15 degrees. And that is probably fine for a lot of games, right? That's just swell for Monopoly or something, right? But for a game like MEG, we would like to have some more precision with our rotating, because wheeling is important to us, right? So I have a solution for this. Again, we're going to select all of our units. This is where it's really important to hit the prevent pickup button, right? So that we can't accidentally pick them up. I'm going to show you why in the example, but let's click our prevent pickup button. I'm going to select the unit again. Actually, first we're going to grab our pawn. So this is also important. The pawn, in the way I've implemented the tool right now, the pawn is used to designate the corner, which will become the axis of your wheel, right? So I'm going to put the pawn here. You might say, well, why do I have to do this? Why don't you know that I want to wheel on this corner? Because there is some math involved in that, right? So to know that this corner is here, I have to know what the front of the formation is. I have to know, the base that's furthest over here. I have to know the position of the base. There's some complicated math, and I haven't quite worked it out yet. So the interim solution is to use the pawn to identify the corner at which we are going to wheel, right? So I'm placing my pawn here. There's one pawn for each player. So if I'm the red player, I use the red pawn. If I'm the blue player, I use the blue pawn. And I'm going to, again, select my unit. And let's do a nice subtle 1 degree clockwise move. Boop, just like that. Right? We can also wheel 5 degrees. And we can, of course, hit the button as many times as we want to do our wheeling. This is something that was not possible, again, at least in increments that were not 15 degrees with the out-of-the-box interface for Tabletop Simulator. So I can also, of course, wheel counterclockwise. Again, I can always sort of go back as long as I have everybody selected and I haven't moved my little pawn. I can go back to where I was if I so desire. Let's go, let's see, forward 1, 2, couple. Yeah, that's about like it was, straight. So that is wheeling. Now let me show you why it's so important to prevent pickup, right? So let's wheel forward some odd amount, right? So that we're not at one of those 15-degree increments that the Tabletop Simulator allows. And again, I'm going to show you what not to do. So we're going to say allow pickup, right? And by saying allow pickup, we are now able to pick everything up. Let's pick them up. Watch what happens. So what happened there, you saw everybody moved, like all the bases moved a little bit. Now we have this nasty jagged line here. That's because when you pick things up, it snaps to an increment, the nearest increment of 15 degrees. That's what is so important to, if you're going to use the move tool, especially for wheeling, then you want to prevent pickup with that button. So we could, of course, sort this out. We just have to, we would have to move everybody kind of back the way they were. If I did this by accident somehow in one of my games, you might even mark the position and, go back here and use our friendly move tool, right? We can rearrange everybody perfectly again and kind of put them back and get them back to where they should be. But, the best thing to do is to use these buttons to prevent that accidental pickup. If you're using the move tool, you should have very few occasions where you need to sort of manually pick things up and move them around. As I was editing this, I noticed there was one thing I forgot to point out, which is that you do still have to use measuring tools, or you have to do your own measuring, I should say, when you wheel, right? So just remember that down here, this 5 and 1, those values, those are degrees, not base widths or anything like that. So you will have to line things up and, measure your wheels. Maybe we'll have a solution for that in the future, but for now, that's how it is. MEG is a big game with lots of army lists and options. For that reason, I wanted to keep the mod as flexible as possible, allowing you to source models from wherever you can find them. Scripted movement, though, requires a bit of conformity. You and the models have to agree on which way front is. The code doesn't know how to tell which way the eyes of the model are looking, right? So we have to give it a hint as to how front works, right? So let's we'll just hide the menus for now. I'm going to go back here and get a good example. Let's grab these slingers. I think they might be a good example. All right, we see these guys are all lined up. I want these to be just a little even. So I just use my little base width or base alignment tool there to line everybody up. Okay, here they all are, looking good. I'm going to get out this tool here, show hide scripted move setup tools. And this tool is what I created to solve this front problem, right? To tell the bases which way front should be. So I'm just going to test it, click on this, up, and it's moving to the side, right? It doesn't know, it thinks front is to the left, right? So I need to fix that. I see that this little arrow pointing to the left is here to give me a hint that this is the button I need to hit. I'm going to click on this, and what this did, behind the scenes, it's adding a tag, which sort of tells the bases, tells the code, like, what to offset the rotation to make front work the way I want front to work. But you don't have to know all that. Just be aware that, pick the direction that they were originally going here. And now front is front and back is back. And I'm ready to play with these guys. Just real quick on how this actually works here. I'm going to move this out of the way, but let me just right click and look at the tags. And these buttons, all they do is add tags that look like this. Right, in front 270, this is, the tags that are highlighted in blue are the tags that are applied to, this particular object, right? So we have front 270 there, and that's how it knows what direction front is. So it's just important not to mess with the tags, right? If you're using this tool, don't go in here and delete the tags or change the tags or anything like that. Leave it the way it is, and everything will work out for you. After I'm done, so the idea here is that I use this to set up my army to test their movement backwards, forwards, and then I can hide this and then get out the movement tool, and I'm ready to go at that point. You may find models and bases of models that just don't move right, or you may have people flying off of horses. I'm going to show you some examples. So in our first example, here we have some other phalangites here. And I'm going to select them. Let's say I was setting up my army, right, for use with the move tool, and I do my test. And not only did they move backwards, but they moved at a weird angle, right? So That's not good because I can't really I can click the offset button right for 180, and now when I go forward, they go forward, but they're still going forward at an angle here of about almost 45 degrees. So let me show you what's going on here. The best way, or one way to kind of check this out, is to use the gizmo tool, right? Let's zoom in here underneath that gray box, but we're using the gizmo tool. Let's go to scale, click on our guy here, and we see that things look a little weird, right? See this box, I think this is showing us what's called the bounding box, but this is all at a weird angle, and the center of things all seems a little bit off. Best thing to do in this situation is to rebase the models, actually. Now, it's maybe not as bad as rebasing models in real life, because at least you only have to rebase them once, and then you can copy and paste after that, right? You only have to do it on one base. And of course, you can make as many bases as you want because computers, right? So let's go to our attach tool, click on attach, click on the base, drag it off. Saw some of these guys sort of stank here when we did that. Here we go. This guy, these guys are still attached. Let's repeat the process, attach. Here, let's see, I bet one more of them, maybe this one, yes. Repeat the process. So what's going on here, if you're not familiar with the attach tool, it's under here, under combine, right? We can attach things. You can also joint things, and there are a couple other weird options here, but attach is what you should use in most situations, especially in this situation with this mod. But clicking on something and then dragging to the table surface detaches, right? So that is what I'm doing now to detach our miniatures from our base. We have one more to go here, and I think that the reason this base was behaving so strangely, right, is that the miniatures were maybe attached to each other, or some of them were attached to the base. Sometimes the base was attached to the miniature. It all gets a little bit weird, but I'm just going to show you the right way to set this up, which is to always attach the model to the base, right? Never attach the base to the model. So again, going to the attach tool, click on our phalanxite here, drag to the base, and he's attached. Click on him, drag to the base, and he's attached. Click on this guy, drag to the base, and he's attached. Click on this guy, drag to the base, and he is attached now. And I think we will see that our base of models here will work better. You get this little distortion thing. I'm not exactly sure why that happens when you use the attach tool sometimes. Must have something to do with like the scales or something between the two objects. I don't know. But in any event, though, to make your life easier, always do it this way. Attach the model to the base. Do not attach the base to the model. Do not attach the models to each other. Although I'm going to show you an exception to that in a minute here. But anyway, we have our base. So let's see here. If we move forward, okay, now we've got a different problem. We're moving this way, but we will click our offset 90 button, and now I think, yes, now we're good to go with this base. So we could, copy this and make a whole army out of it if we wanted to, because we are now moving forwards and backwards the correct direction, and we're not sliding back and forth. We take a look at our gizmo tool again, click on scale just to bring up this bounding box thing, and it looks better now. It looks like our center point is in the center of the base, which is where we want it, and we're kind of pointed in directions that we want to be pointed in. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that is that example of the base situation, or the uncooperative model, or uncooperative base situation, maybe I should say. Select them. Let's move them forward. But what on earth happened there? So everybody is going, off to the left. So that's one thing. But this guy on the horse, he's going out to the right. Or he's going forward, right? Just on his own. So, hit the button and he just keeps on. He would keep sailing on across the table, floating above the ground like that, all a little weird. Again, the best way to deal with this is to kind of redo these bases, redo these models from the beginning. So let me show you how to do that. Let's grab this guy. We'll use this base, and let's get our attach tool, just like we did before. Drag it to the tabletop. Let's see, the horse moves now, he does. And in this case, we have really multiple models. So the rider is its own model, and the horse is its own model. And probably, or maybe the rider might have been jointed to the horse or attached to the horse, I'm not sure. But again, we need to kind of fix things a bit from scratch here to make it work correctly. So let's grab this horse and move him over there. And let's grab our gizmo tool. That's the best way. So we can pick this guy up, but he'll just sort of fall to the, I guess I'll do that as an example. See, look, he falls to the ground because he has a lighter in the center of himself. Probably it all gets into like how 3D objects work and whatnot, and coordinates and points and things, but you don't really have to know all of that stuff, right, to make this work. All you got to do is know where to find the little tools and kind of how to use them. So let's click on our gizmo. Let's go to move. Let's click on this guy and see the little green handle here. Let's pull that up around. Let's move him over on the horse. Let's take a minute to line them up here. Not sure if that's how good that is. Let's angle ourselves down so we're not looking at our gray box. Oh yeah, that's terrible. So let's try and get him up. Grab the blue one to move him back. This sort of thing, it's a little fiddly if you haven't done this kind of, you're not used to working with 3D stuff. Him up, almost there. Almost there. Well, we're going to say that's, oh, well, okay. Well, that's the horse. Hey, sometimes the horse comes to the man. Sometimes the man comes to the horse. Let's just move the horse there. That looks pretty good to me. Let's go back to our attach tool, and we're going to attach rider to horse. On this one, let's make sure that we have attached rider to horse. And now let's grab our grab tool, and we can move her around. We can click on anywhere. The guy doesn't fall off. Pretty good. Looking pretty good here. All right, let's put our horsies back on the base then. And okay, very good. Let's click on our attach tool, and let's attach the horse to the base. All right, so what do? Again, we attach the rider to the horse, and we attach the horse to the base. Again, we do not attach the base to the horse. We do not attach the horses to each other or anything crazy like that. So now I think things will work out for us. Let's get our grab tool, select these guys. Let's move him. He's still going that way, which is fine because we have a fix for that. Again, click our offset button here because we're going off to the left. And now, here we go, back and forth. Very good. So I probably wouldn't even, I wouldn't use the guys that I just sort of put together there. So let's just grab him, copy, paste. We got our 6 like cav again. Let's go back here. Let's arrange them. Do this works. So let's deselect them going. There we go. There we go. We have a nice unit of cav. They're ready to move forwards, move backwards. Bring up our regular movement tool, right? We can just hey, they're light cav, right? So let's move 5 base widths forward. There we go. I'm ready to sail off and throw javelins at people and run away and do all the things that light horse does. So yeah, so it's some examples of how to deal with difficult or uncooperative models. Yes, it does take some setup time up front. Again, remember that you only have to do this really on each type of base, right, then you copy and paste after that. So, you know, might take some playing around with to get familiar with the old Gizmo tool if you're not used to that. And it's not too bad to me, at least. Like doing stuff like this outweighs the fiddliness of you know, moving with the default tools Tabletop Simulator has for moving objects around on the table. Just a note here that I have not updated all of the, at least at the time of making this video, I haven't updated the sample armies that you find in these boxes over here. You know, your mileage will vary. You probably do need to test out if you're using the sample armies, right? You will need to, unfortunately, test these things out and make sure that they are, you know, that they know which way front is, and that they're working the way that you need them to, and you might have to do what I just showed you that, you know, a few minutes ago. I might update all the armies eventually. That will take some time. I'll talk a little about the math and code in this part of the video, and if this is, you know, not the kind of stuff you are into, then maybe this is your exit point, right? And I wish you well. I hope you had fun, and I hope you have fun, you know, using the Scripted MEG mod. And as always, I would love to hear your feedback. The Move tool is largely powered by stolen trigonometry. I think I got an A in trigonometry, but that was in 1990, and I do not recall a lick of it. Some of the rotation and vectors and things do depend on trig, right? Trig functions, sines, cosines, radians, you know, all that fun trigonometry stuff. I'm a firm believer in applying the mature artist steel principle, and I was able to piece together my movement tool from code I found, some of it in the oak and iron mod, and some code I found years ago when I first started working on the wheeling problem. It was in it was the Tabletop Simulator forum, or maybe it was Reddit. I don't remember which. I've been thinking about this movement problem again, like for years, like since I started with Tabletop Simulator. My holy grail is to have something that looks a lot like the DBA mod. If you've seen that one, the guy who wrote that really knows what he's doing and is on another level of Tabletop Simulator Lewis scripting than I am. I think I'm getting there, but I've got a ways to go. I had a few ideas that were maybe uniquely mine. The idea to prevent picking up bases was mine, although I eventually borrowed the actual function that I used to do that from, again, a forum post that I found. My other little innovation was the tool for setting the offset, right? That is this thing here. And this keeps it flexible, right? The idea of this is to make it easier to use assets from other mods, you know, so you can make your own armies with whatever models and bases you want to. Again, to compare my mod to something like the DBA mod gives you everything you need to play with a collection of things that are all made to work well together and all kind of sort of fit together in this complete product almost, whereas my mod is more of a sandbox. I'm just giving you a collection of tools to help you play, and you can use some of the tools or none of the tools or all of the tools, you know, whatever you want. I'm sure I'll keep adding to the MEG mod when I have time. Sometimes those updates may be separated by months or a year or more. Sometimes this latest iteration was the product of COVID-related forced isolation, and it might not have happened if I had not had to spend a week in a room with a computer, some unpainted miniatures, and a small dog. Thank you for watching.